Let's just try quarterback. I don't know if any of these will actually even... If folks want to roast me for saying this, please feel free. This is not that far off from like a Wii game. 2 for 2 on the Matrix Rain. For today's video, we're going to be putting 4 new state-of-the-art models in a head-to-head battle of wits, style, and style. So as we see right here in the quadrant setup on the screen, we're going to be using the new ChatGPT 5.4 in thinking mode through a pro subscription, and I do have extended thinking enabled. Following that, to the right of it on the top, we have Gemini 3.1 Pro, where I am using it through the gemini.google.com chat interface. I'm not using this through the AI Studio. I know there has been for a while now a lot of talk in that it could hypothetically perform better there, and being that I do use this model every single day from within this specific chat interface, I would say that by now, if the model has vastly different performance in a different UI, that is not something the user should have to modify their workflow to deal with or contend with. So with that, we're using 3.1 Pro here, and I do have the canvas enabled, as hypothetically that allows it to output more lines of code, at least from what I've heard in the grapevine. So don't quote me on that. But in the bottom left, we have Claude Opus 4.6 on extended thinking mode. This is being used through the Max 5X plan, which I believe is the $100 a month plan. And I should mention Gemini 3.1 Pro. This is the Ultra subscription. And I would say in terms of all these models right here, I use Gemini the most currently, and not for coding and things like that, but more for personal assistant style utilization, I guess could be said. Finally, in the bottom right, we have Grok 4.20 beta, and I am going to be using this in extended. There we go. So we're going to be using this in expert mode with Grok 4.20 beta enabled. Now you may notice that there is also this heavy option, which I do not have access to. Reason being, Grok will perform significantly more potently when it does have heavy enabled. So keep in mind, this model is almost going to be quote-unquote handicapped compared to the others, but this is paywalled behind a $300 a month subscription to be able to access the heavy, the most expensive subscription out of all of these by a significant amount. And the reason for me not wanting to run that is, one, I don't want to spend $300 just for this specific video. But two, as well, all of these other models can be accessed with $20 a month plans, so I don't see that it's fair to be able to run one that has to require a $300 a month plan when the other ones it's contending against can be had for much cheaper. And as we begin our first test, which is of course going to be the Browser OS version 2, I would like to just quickly talk a little about all of these models and my specific use case with them, at least recently. So as far as I'm concerned, okay, this is an issue because this just changed to ChatGPT Auto, which we do not want to be the case. I use all of these. I probably use Grok less, though I do find that its ability to actually search X or some of its other research capabilities are quite potent. And again, being able to find things on X is well worth the price, considering if one is in a business use case or needs to find trends and things of that sort. I used Gemini. Previously it was 3 Pro, but it has recently been updated to 3.1 Pro. Oh, it's going to show me a teaser, so I'll click back in code. I use this daily, and I would have to say, out of all these models, if I were to have to pick one to, I suppose, be friends with, it would absolutely be Gemini. I just find that this is going to sound so weird, but like it gets me, and I find some of the ways in which I use it to assist in day-to-day business-related tasks, it seems to just mesh the best with my workflow, I guess could be said. A lot of that could perhaps come down to preference. Opus 4.6 obviously is very highly sought after in terms of its coding and front-end design capabilities. I use it, but mainly the way I think that I use Opus or any Claude model is through Claude Code, and I find that they're actually pretty potent in just handling system dependencies and setups and things like that. So even in Linux, I'll open a terminal, type Claude, and then it will open and be like, hey, I need you to create this virtual environment with these dependencies like this version of CUDA, etc. And it's really quite useful in terms of that. And then, of course, ChatGPT, which I use fairly consistently. And I would say I spend about 50-50 between using it through the web interface here versus using it through Codex. Mainly the Codex app I've actually been using on macOS, which is Just not something I would have expected for myself in terms of the way I like to do things and the computers I like to use, but it is quite useful, and some of the things I've been playing with lately have been a lot of fun with codecs. Additionally to that, I use it for like general assistant stuff. Like today I was trying to fix something on a vehicle, which my nails are like disgusting. My hand, I just scrubbed them, I like marks on my face, and I was having GPT kind of help me like, okay, is this specific type of fluid, would this work with it? Just because I have the app on my phone and it's easy to send it pictures or even speak with it. All of our results have now completed, so let's just start with Grok's. That's pretty good looking. Look at the matrix rain special feature. Okay, so it does immediately open with the about section. I'm going to say the text is fairly clean. Special feature, matrix rain, a real-time canvas overlay rendering the iconic falling katana digital rain from the matrix. It's definitely quite pleased with itself. It transforms it into a living, breathing cyberpunk masterpiece. All right. Made with love by Grok. It runs at 60 FPS using pure JS and HTML5 canvas. Okay, well, it does look good. I'll give it that. Let's start with our clock on the bottom, which we do have, and that is the correct time. Do we have a right click? We don't have a right click, but again, the prompt does not specifically denote that. It is something I like to see if it gets included or not. Okay, I will say perhaps the special feature being able to easily be toggled on and off would be something I would like to see. But regardless, let's just run through these apps one by one, starting with our Abacus icon calculator. All right, I'm not seeing the ability to resize, but that's okay. Let's do 70. Okay, let's try the notepad. The future is open source. All right, I like seeing that. I mean, of all of these labs, only one of them does not have any open source models, and that would be Anthropic in terms of like LLMs. XAI has open sourced older versions of Grok. Google has Gemma. OpenAI has GPT-OSS. Good to see. Saved to local storage, and we minimized it to the taskbar, and it does stay there, so not bad. Let's try tic-tac-toe. I've never seen that. It implemented some basic form of AI to actually be the opponent in tic-tac-toe. Usually you just have to do everything yourself. That's actually really well done. Get wrecked. That was cool. That was very impressive. I'm impressed with this. Oh, I'm not impressed with that because it immediately starts when I open it. No look snake. Not bad. Settings. We should be able to change our wallpaper. Oh good, we can disable the matrix rain, but now that it's been on for so long, I kind of don't want to see this without it. I have seen this specific MacBook Air Magic Mouse glasses background before. I think matrix rain looks best with this background. Then finally, we have a terminal. You were the chosen one running Grok OS in a browser, so it's kept to some lore as well. Overall, this was quite a good result. I'm happy with this. Very solid. We'll just go down the list. Claude OS. Oh, Lumen OS initializing. Okay, and this is the Opus 4.6 result. We do have a clock in the bottom right as well as the date, and I am seeing some flashing particles in the background. There is no right click again. Let's just run through and make sure the start menu works. It does. Spotlight search, control, and space. That's a cool feature. I wonder if this is the special feature. I would be type math, no way. Okay, SQRT 144, which is 12. Nice. This is well done. These have leveled up, so to speak. 4 times 4. Yeah, you didn't get that one. Oh. User error. Upper, lower. I wonder if we could type something and then retroactively turn it into higher capital. Word count should be 1. Good. Minimize. Oh, can I resize? Okay, I can. Can I minimize to the taskbar? Good. Next up, terminal. Lumen OS Terminal V1. That looks very good. So if you actually run NeoFetch, where it just gives you system information here as well, it did do a very nice stylized terminal looking aesthetic for the browser OS name, which is very cool. I like this. Let's see if it starts before I click in. No, good. Interesting. The food here is round. It's almost like the exact same thing we see in the top right as the close button. Then Minesweeper. Truthfully, I don't know if I'm just missing something, but I've always found Minesweeper to be just horrible. I honestly think I would rather stare at like a static rock than play this game. Finally, we have our settings, and we can turn particle effects off. Window animations. What exactly would that denote? Oh, well, it turned itself back on, so I guess we wouldn't be able to tell what it looked like without it. Ooh, fireflies. And it seems like these 2 for 2 on the matrix rain. It seems like each one of these backgrounds actually changes the particle effects. Snowfall has that. Deep ocean comes from the bottom. Matrix, of course, one would expect. And Cosmos is just like a bunch of stars. Okay, so the special feature was the spotlight search, which was very, very good. Next up, we have Gemini OS, which is oddly named Lumina OS. Oh, okay, so we'll revisit this one, but I'm going to... yeah, we'll revisit that. Then finally, the GPT one, Nebula OS. Yes, this is quite GPT aesthetic. And it opens with our About. This is a very, very verbose About screen. I can't resize. Can I minimize to the taskbar and reopen? I can. And close as well. We do have a clock and date in the bottom right. Do we have right click? Nope. None of them put right click in. Well, we don't know about the Gemini one yet, but deck. Interesting. So this put a very similar special feature to the Opus result, almost like a spotlight search kind of thing. Can I do math in here though? 4 times 4. Ah. Okay. Wallpaper 6. Wallpaper 5. Much better. Wallpaper 4. All right. Let's just run through these. First, we'll take our start menu. Nebula OS. Okay, so the icons are not working from the desktop. I do believe they'll... okay, they're working from the start menu, so we'll just look at it that way. We already did take a peek at this. Next up, we have our calculator, which I am opening for the first time here. Just, you know, wanted to mention that. Times 5, this should be 235. Very good. Wallpaper Studio. And we did kind of see some of these being changed as well. And we do have these enraging notifications that pop up on the side here. This is one of my least favorite things about Mac OS, is this garbage. Upload image. Stevie Slappa's portfolio background. Initiated. Well done. Then, of course, we have some games here. Wow, this is really quite a intricate snake UI. It even has buttons to control. I suppose I'm good enough to be able to play with one of these buttons. I thought the snake was going to be red. I don't know why. Yeah, all right, maybe we'll just use the arrow keys. It seems like this snake is running at a rapid pace. Interestingly, it does change color as it grows. Then finally, we have tic-tac-toe. Tic-tac-toe versus computer. So it does seem like this one also implemented an AI to play against us. It's so interesting to me how sometimes the models produce oddly similar results. Sadly, we only get one turn here, but that means we'll never lose. So I guess there is a glass half full kind of aesthetic. Okay, not bad. So our only issue here is this Google one, and I will give it the option to fix it. Should I? So I'm asking Gemini to fix the issue, explain it, and then following that on a scale from 1 to 5, rate its incompetence in actually making said mistake. The incompetence rating is 2 of 5. It was a context blindness errors, saying the code was 100% correct for the canvas. All right, let's see. Very good. So it did fix it. It is very frustrating that this even needed to be done, but the background is very high quality. Pacific Northwest looking, I would say. We do have our clock as well as fake Wi-Fi and battery statistics, so that is cool to see. Do we have a right click? None of them put a right click in, and I know the prompt doesn't specifically state it, but it's just something that I like to see if they infer it should be included. Still no in this generation of models, just no. Regardless, let's take a look at our start menu. System offline mode. Okay, everything looks kind of clean here. This is definitely a modern looking UI, and we'll run through. It even has little hover effects on the icons when we go over them. They kind of tilt to the side at around a 5 to 10 degree angle. All right, well that worked. So I just deleted the URL for the wallpaper, and it did inevitably change it. Just do a black background, but we'll leave that. Cloud notes. Quick memo, offline mode notes will not sync. This seems to have done something to make it work specifically much better from within the canvas, but the prompt said it should just be able to be opened in Chrome. So I don't specifically know, and I may run subsequent results without using Canvas because this seems to have really done a disservice to it. This is only playable by these on-screen buttons, which are not 100% visible on screen. Okay, breakout. Nice. All right. I do like this. Although, okay, I don't know that that's exactly right. I feel like this platform is supposed to be the only thing the ball rebounds off from the bottom, but I'll take it because this is, of course, impossible to lose. Finally, Lumina AI. System ready. I'm Lumina AI, your kernel assistant. How can I optimize your experience? My guess is this is another thing that probably would have worked much better from within the canvas window, and regrettably, we're not even able to type into it. So this made a mistake in just trying to specifically design this for the canvas. I'm going to try this next test on all of these models, of course, but I did just swap to the Google AI Studio for Gemini. I do have 3.1 Pro enabled with the thinking effort set to high. We'll see if it makes a significant difference, at least compared to the other results we get. Now, of course, for the prompt in this specific test, we are going to be having these create a beautifully detailed but static subway scene using JS that we can open in the web. Ideally, although it is not depicted here in the prompt, we should be able to navigate around, whether it be using the mouse or the arrow keys to kind of walk around the scene. And this is one that just tests their ability to make something pretty, I suppose. Now, it has been a little while since I initially began this prompt, and what happened was my ChatGPT account just stopped working. This is an issue that also appeared in the initial test of 5.4 thinking. And essentially, I will just, I suppose, go to x.com because I am going to just point this out as it is really rather frustrating to me, and I would like this to be like at least fixed or something. So after sending like 5 messages to this model, I keep getting "you've reached your message limit," and this is with a pro subscription at $200 a month, which this is just blatantly incorrect. There is something wrong. I noticed that I've only been seeing this since 5.4 came out. I don't know if it's using different ways to try to identify what it deems to be like nefarious behavior or bad use case, but the really frustrating thing is my computer over there, it doesn't show me that message limit. But then this laptop right here, as well as the one I'm using to record, does show me, hey, you've hit your limit. That would be Google, I think. Ooh, funky. All right, we do have a subway car. This is very abstract, and I'm noticing, interestingly, there's actually some pretty good tile on the wall. The problem is the shadows are extremely harsh, so we can't see much of it, though we can move around the scene, which is not something specifically mentioned in the prompt, but I always do like to see if that gets included or not. Overall, not bad. Interesting lighting color there as well. If we scroll in here, we have tile on that side. We do have some decent looking tracks, actually. The materials for the metal and then the wood inside the tracks. If we zoom out all the way. All right, overall, this is a fairly basic result, I will say. Next up, we have our Grok subway scene result. Okay, this is not bad at all. It even put little people in. I've never seen people placed in this result. I mean, I haven't been doing this test very long, truth be told, but I've not seen people ever put in here. We can also move around. There is no subway car, but the tracks are quite decent. And we also see, I would presume these to be some form of lighting. There's some texture. There's even the yellow do not cross barrier. Perhaps that in the end there, although I can't really zoom into there. I think maybe that is the beginning of a train or perhaps the end of a train leaving. So could be like an artistic take on this. We have benches. We do have some floor material and columns and lights. So overall, 3:17 a.m. Platform B, next train, 17 minutes. All right. 42nd Street Station. Not bad. Now our Claude Opus 4.6 result. Entering station. Please stand clear. Jeez. And this is why Opus is so, oh wow, the computer's like, this is why Opus is so highly regarded, is because of its design ability to do things like this. I mean, this is phenomenal. This may be one of the finest, if not the finest result I've seen for this test. The implementation of this clock here, even with an attempt at the actual time, even seeing different colored tiles here, the orange, the green, and the random gray palette throughout. The benches look good. The metallic material in these poles as well as the lights does look good. We also have the safety strip and a very detailed subway with multiple different cars. Though I will say, were I to knock this, which at this point is probably a bit nitpicky, I don't see like an actual track, but I mean, considering everything else it did, I think that's a fairly reasonable thing to not like nitpick. We have exit signs. We have track maps here. That was incredibly well done. Then finally, we have the subway station scene.html because ChatGPT just generated this in a downloadable file. It didn't give me like a canvas to copy paste it. So let's take a peek at this. Okay, we're outside of the scene right now, so, oh no, don't tell me we can't move though. So the issue right here is this camera is loaded in outside of the static subway scene, and this is the only one that neglected to actually implement any form of being able to move around the scene, which I know was not specifically included in the prompt, but the downside of that is all the other ones did, so... And it's a little upsetting. Now, because I don't want to run this again, because I'm having such problems with the subscription and things of the sort, I may actually just manually move the coordinates of the camera so we can at least take a peek inside, but keep in mind this is a failure. Alright, so I moved the camera coordinates just a bit here. I changed it. It was at 22. I moved it to 2. Let's drop this one a small amount as well. Maybe we'll do 5.5 so we can at least lower. And it's frustrating because now we see we're actually inside the station, and this looks pretty decent. We have texture here. I do see individual tile there, grand oak, the lighting. It's definitely a darker take on this, but it also did include a detailed subway car. And though we can't really move around per se, I almost do see like some trash or some artifacts there on the bottom of the subway car underneath the track. Let's move the camera over once more, which is, you know, I mean, we can try it and see if we can see down if there are benches and things of the sort. Okay, there are benches. There's also some lighting over there. I think we would see signs here, even like a drain and some things on the wall. So this is a reasonable result. The subway car is definitely detailed as well. The Opus result is, though, I would say a clear winner here. So let's check our 3D printer simulation results, starting with the ChatGPT one, being that I did have to initiate this from my other computer that was not showing me the usage limits, though now it does perhaps seem like every time. We'll look at the other ones and then I'll have to fix this manually. It just needs an import map, but it's something I've noticed this 5.4 consistently leaves out, and I've not to that degree seen such consistency, albeit an issue, from any other model that I've tested. Okay, this is our Grok result. I'm going to say that's one of the better upper nozzles I've seen before. Grok 4.20 is a significant improvement over the previous model, I'm going to say. I suppose I need to learn my lesson. We need to start, sometimes I need to test the results before I speak, but I do see it is going layer by layer. The nozzle's perhaps not perfectly drawing in the shape where it would be, and there is no infill. It's kind of simplified like pancake stacking. Regardless, though, everything here is actually not bad. I do like the colors of the printer. I could use a little more detail perhaps for the gantry that actually holds the nozzle, but the core of this is functioning properly, and if we zoom in, though it is a bit hard to see, we can actually see individual layers, and this is what I had asked for. We also do have our specific layer progress, so 13 of 20, as well as the progress for each individual specific layer. I'm going to probably just speed this up so it finishes. Not bad. Now let's try our circle. Very good. And sometimes they make different colors for each different shape, but in this case it's just seemingly sticking with disgusting orange. But regardless, let's now try. Good. That is a fine result. Next up, if I can get to my files, we have our Gemini result. Very interesting. This one and Grok are like long-lost cousins. Interesting. That simulation speed isn't even turned up all the way. I have good things to say and I have bad things to say. The good things are, this is actually fairly realistically drawing the plastic trail, at least in how it would come out of the nozzle, so I do respect that. On the downside, it didn't really give us an actual model of a 3D printer. It kind of went very light on that, but it did properly emulate the movement of said printer. We are also getting multiple walls here, so I do see 3, I believe. And again, this is a more abstract take because it's just almost drawing a wireframe of the specific shape. And we do have a status indicator as well. So let's see, it's about to finish inevitably. Okay, not bad. Let's try our circle. And that's what I mean. The actual like printing looks good. Even the way that this moved there to go and start from the outer to the inner again, this has a decent realism, at least attempt to how this would look. And I do have to say again, this is something that's oftentimes harder to do than not. The actual plastic coming out of the tip of the nozzle is proper. So the nozzle's not like below the bed like what we saw with the Grok one. And that is something I don't often see working very well. So props for that. Finally, of course, the triangle. And the nozzle is moving properly for each specific shape. So very simple in terms of the actual aesthetics, but functionality not bad. Finally, let's try our Opus result. Okay, this is, so far the model is more intricate as well as the UI. We even have presets for views, which is not something I've ever seen in doing this test before. This one also has a decently drawn upper nozzle, almost similar to the Grok style with the fins we saw on top of it there. Okay, so that would seem to be indicative of the nozzle heating, and we do actually see that there. Huh. Let me reset this with higher infill density, and we'll see if those little lines that were drawn inside of it. Oh, the speed multiplier is right there. All right, so this one's cheating a bit because it's just pancaking them layer by layer, but don't mistake that for, I mean, this is obviously so far the best one from a visual perspective. Hands down, the printer model is actually quite nicely done. We even do have a filament tube that is staying with this. The gantry looks good, the nozzle looks good. The infill selection was cute, but unfortunately this doesn't actually make a difference in what we see in the result. Very good. And then of course our triangular prism. Now this is interesting. It's actually outputting G-code here. That's actually very impressive. It may be harder to understand that if you're not really interested in 3D printers, but this is cool to see from a well thought out perspective. Now, of course, if we are to go back to the broken GPT one, which is missing an import map, it's so slow to fix these, and I'm also extremely mad at it over that bug. So I'll just fix it manually. All right, this should hypothetically now be fixed. Very good. So we have our GPT result visible here. And again, the UI looks decent as well as the printer model. Now, obviously, the elephant in the room is this weird rectangle sitting in the middle. This almost looks like it is supposed to be what goes underneath the print bed. However, it was incorrectly arranged. Regardless, let's just take a look at our movement. All right, so that is... it's definitely somewhat of an issue. And oh, good. Though I will say the infill capability on this is akin to what we noticed in the GPT-5.4 Pro testing video, where it had some very, very good attention to detail in terms of actually doing infill and things like this. I mean, this is a more realistic methodology, at least for the infill, than the other results. The biggest issue here is the fact that what should be underneath the bed is just oriented in the wrong direction, which is just, again, kind of like something that slipped by detail-wise. Although the actual printing process here, if we didn't have that in the way, would be probably the best. Let's reset it. We'll try a circle. And I want to see, does it actually close the tops of the shapes? No, it doesn't. Although the gantry moves nice at the end of it. GPT 5.4 Pro did actually close the top of the shapes as well. That one really did a tremendous job. All of these are quite similar. We do see layers. The gantry movement isn't bad, and interesting, we do actually have the filament drawn to the spool, and it doesn't seem to break connection there while it's printing, so that is cool to see. I don't see any spool rotation. Actually, too hard to tell. But overall, again, keep in mind, I did need to manually fix this with an import map, but once we looked at it, aside from that issue of where that's drawn, this was definitely the most realistic in terms of the actual printing process, although the Opus G-code output was very impressive in and of itself. Next up is going to be a far more intricate test, but also something different. Keep in mind, I had to start this with ChatGPT from my other computer, so the result for that one is already completed, but I have not yet looked at it. I'll wait for all of these to be done. This specific test is to create an accurate 3JS model of Jerry's apartment from the show show Seinfeld. In lieu of giving this any reference to the actual layout or details in the apartment, I want these all to actually use their search capabilities to find pertinent detail and then use what they find to culminate in an accurate representation of the apartment, or at least what should be. We can see they're all working right now, and they do all have the capability to search the web, as they have it all enabled, and Gemini will just do it automatically, I believe, but I will verify. That was extremely fast, but we see something went wrong. Now, I did have Canvas enabled for that. So the Gemini result is already hypothetically finished. So I'll try this in the Google AI Studio as well, because I feel like looking at the two results that we receive, one from Gemini here in the Canvas versus what we receive in AI Studio in Google. And I've dropped the temperature just a slight bit and enabled grounding with Google Search. So it'll be cool just to see some side-by-side to see if there's a stark difference in the outputted result versus not, depending on which one of these you use. Regardless, I'll allow the other two to finish. So it seems Grok has completed as well, and we do see some of its reference images right here. Now, okay, this took the prompt and just generated images of the apartment as opposed to what we had specifically wanted. Did I stutter? Apparently, I don't know how to spell that word. We'll see what it does. User demands an interactive 3JS model, not static images or text explanations. Okay, and Gemini is going at light speed here from within the AI Studio. So this is our Google result being used through the Gemini AI Studio. Overall, simple. Not necessarily a wonderful representation of the apartment, but some of the detail here is not bad. The Porsche poster and the vintage Mac are included, as well as the lime green Klein bicycle. We can also see what would presumably be apartment building windows that one could see outside the window. The movement is smooth. The couch looks good. The colors are simple. There's a TV, there's a table, there's some things there, some bar stools. I think that would be a refrigerator, and perhaps those are cereal boxes. And then over there we have something that I'm not 100% sure how to quantify, but this vintage Mac does look good. Now, the Mac changed throughout the series, but that was an actual Mac that was included as well. Overall, this is respectable, especially considering it did it very quickly. Next up, this is our Grok result, which initially it refused. It just basically gave us photo renderings because it said, hey, this is going to be way more difficult. Okay, we also do have an error right here. I'll give it the opportunity to fix it, as I have been doing that for certain models here. So basically, if one of them makes a mistake, they all can get a mulligan in this test, just because it's harder to kind of wrangle all of these. With that, we can now take a peek at the result that we had received from GPT, which, let me guess. And again, we have that same exact issue. So I'll just fix that manually, but let's look at the Opus result. Enter apartment. Close, but, oh, okay. Very, very well done, though I will say this is not really realistic to the layout of his apartment if we are just to look at the individual items and judge them based on that. The couch is the correct color. The table looks very good with things on it. We also do have that same vintage Mac over there in the corner. I also see a sort of pink bathroom or something aesthetic. I believe that is a bicycle on the other end of the wall. It is. I see a bit of lime green as well as a refrigerator. Oh, and that's a bed. Okay, so this is an interesting kitchen layout with the bed inside the kitchen. But the bike is there as well, so now we see that a bit clearer. Vintage Mac looks good. The lamps look good, and the way the lamps are actually showing the lighting is nice as well. We have a door there on the wall, some tables and chairs, not perfectly made, but well done. A bookshelf, and then some posters. Now our GPT results should load. Very good. Oh, wow. Interesting how it's like tagged everything. Now, first we see the bicycle, which is good, the lime green there. We have the kitchen. I'm going to say first and foremost, there is more detail actually ascribed to the posters that do exist in the apartment on the show, such as the Porsche one, some car posters and things like that. The couches are also kind of green, but something that really I am actually very, very impressed with here. Can we change our mode to WASD to move and walk mode? And even just that poster right there that it created, and it did put mesh colliders on the furniture, so we can't walk through the furniture, which I almost wish it hadn't because it's harder to move around. It said like New York and it looked cool. We have the bicycle. None of them have perfectly done the bicycle, but they've all kind of at least got the lime green. Looking out the window though with the shades, that's a really cool backdrop to indicate a city. Even if this is not laid out properly in respect to the show, this is very well done from a graphical standpoint. Oh, toggle helper labels. So I removed those. We do have cereal, some stools, some other things on the refrigerator. Really the biggest issue is I can't get over here, but I do believe that's the vintage Mac. There's the door. Action Comics, Race School, Porsche. Okay, that bicycle is kind of, and I do believe that maybe that is the lighting fixture. It does exist. And then what I would imagine to be the bedroom. There's the Mac, and looking out the window there, that's an impressive take on a city view. Even the Mac has a little screen on it, and this looks like the PowerBook with the Duo Dock one kind of. This was well done. And Grok has supposedly finished our result. Now, I noticed it was only 188 lines of code, but okay, it did it. It's just not as detailed. And again, I had mentioned in the beginning of this video, there's a different Grok model that's $300 a month that's significantly more potent than the one we're using. I just, for one video, as well as the fact that the other models can all be accessed, even in lower amounts at $20 a month subscriptions, makes me not want to test that one against these. So for the size of this model, it did do okay. It did some web research. The results speak for themselves. We had also run this, if you recall, just in the Google Gemini chat as well. Okay, the bike is on the wall there. Click enter and walk around. I would definitely say now, seeing them side by side, the result that we received in AI Studio was significantly better. Yeah, so maybe there is a difference. And I did have grounding with Google search enabled here as well. Now we are doing the Stevie Slappis hand-drawn portfolio wireframe to website test. However, I have slightly modified the prompt from my usual, which is a bit simpler. So in this test, I have specifically told them, using this wireframe as inspiration, craft a modern high-tech portfolio website that features high-end design and showcases the portfolio owner's prowess at coding. To do this, implement special features that are complex from a CS/ML implementation standpoint, and we'll see how these go about. I basically want to see like interesting code magic being done on this portfolio site. And of course, I should also show this portfolio image. It would be kind of brazen of me to assume that folks are already familiar with it, though you should be if you watch the channel. So we can see it's just a really simple hand-drawn portfolio wireframe for Stevie Slappis, although oftentimes it is just ending up being called TV Lapis. We'll see what variations of that we get. Inevitably, there will be multiple. So let's take a look at our portfolio wireframe to high-end websites, starting with the Gemini result. Okay, we see a skills matrix here. Did seem to kind of freak out. This is actually kind of cool though. What I'm going to say here, even though this looks kind of simple, it did get the name right, Stevie Slappis, which is rare to see. The about section right here that has emulated some form of terminal is actually kind of neat. I do dig that, and I will give her props for that. We also have some lighting effects here in purple and green where it's fading in and out, as well as a spinning animation for the picture, or at least what should be the picture. We have a contact form as well. Initialize message protocol, system ready, and the skills matrix, which is perhaps not the best way to showcase one's skill set because they're kind of just bouncing around the page erroneously, but definitely an abstract take. Next up, let's take a look at our Grok result. This is quite well done. It has a nice translucence to the top menu bar. Again, there's a lot of movement in these pages, as that was kind of denoted in the prompt. The grid pattern here with these shapes finding each other is pretty cool, and the way they're bouncing around, it does seem to be somewhat triggered by the mouse movement as well. We also have a nice download button for the CV, and it just gives us a pop-up saying, in real life, this would kind of just give you, okay, Stevie Lapis is what it took as the name. Online building and neural nets, machine learning engineer, full stack. My journey began with a hand-drawn wireframe on paper. 42 projects shipped, 12 machine learning models deployed, infinite lines of code. From training CNNs that can recognize emotion in real time to building particle-based neural simulations like the one powering this very hero section. Every line of code is a love letter to the intersection of art and science. Skills and technology. These are very nice looking cards, as well as hover effects, and when you actually click on them, that is when the bar graph goes to reflect the percentage shown here. Featured projects, and then again we have that MacBook Air photo, but that's okay. This portfolio, Nexus Flow, a graph neural network visualizer. Here's our interactive playground. Neural particles, okay, and this is what we saw. Mouse moves particles, click to add new neurons. The exact algorithm powers this background. I don't know, and I want to get off of this because it could trigger some like issue. Game of life, start simulation. Rules implemented from scratch in just 40 lines of JS. These squares. Click anywhere to add data points. Someone can perhaps shed light on what we're seeing here, because that's not going to be me. But regardless, the interactivity is quite nice here. Scrolling down, get in touch. Let's build something legendary. Send transmission. 2026 Stevie Lapis built this love letter to CS and ML, GitHub, X, and LinkedIn. That was very well done. Next up, we have our Opus portfolio. Ooh, okay. Stevie Lapis, full stack engineer and ML enthusiast. Interesting, this has kind of a snapping grid effect that is similar to what we had seen in the browser OS for the Opus result as well. So that's always interesting to see things that kind of carry over. We even have a sample neural network right here. We have our input, we have our hidden layers, and then we have our output. There are connections drawn there as well. And this is just kind of somewhat animated, as well as the blinking cursor effect following the name. View live demos or get in touch. All right, engineer, researcher, problem solver. 6 years experience, 40 projects, and 8 publications. We also have the spinning person card, which we saw here as well in the Gemini result. Software engineer with deep expertise in ML and systems architecture. Okay, and we do again kind of have some graphs with different levels of competency. The lowest seemingly being the 78% in computer vision. Regardless, algorithms in action, live demos, real CS and ML implementations running live in your browser, not animations, actual algorithms. Here is pathfinding. Let's regenerate. Heuristic graph search, Manhattan distance. Cool. Again, this would be like kind of, someone could perhaps speak to what we're seeing here. Would be appreciated. Merge sort. Wow. That was quite nice. Neural network forward pass. No way. Oh man, this thing went all out. Fourier epicycles, game of life. So interesting. Grok and Opus both implemented this game of life. They both implemented a bunch of functional demonstrations here as well. So they are changing. It's just very light. So keep in mind that. Very neat. And then we have the new shape. Oh, okay. It's a... I just, at first, you know, it is late and I was kind of perplexed by what I was looking at. But then I realized it's just a nice little kind of triangle shape. A heart, a starfish, no, scroll down, let's connect, Stevie at lapis.dev, GitHub Lapis, and then LinkedIn. Very well done. Like put the import map in because it's, oh, never mind. All right, this is such a GPT-5 aesthetic. This is a dead ringer for what we saw with our browser OS. Yeah, this is a very similar aesthetic to what we saw with the browser OS made by GPT, just in terms of these cards. Intelligent Systems Portfolio, turning algorithms, shipping research. So they all have some interesting animation in terms of the text in the initial hero section. This one has a transcribed simple drawing of Stevie Lapis. Engineering software that feels intelligent, because it is. I design end-to-end systems with an emphasis on performance, robustness, and computational clarity. 12 plus production grade systems. Is that a lot? I should charge more for consultations if that is a lot. Wow. So this is a topology of this individual skills. This is like one of the most... Imagine seeing a portfolio with this. I kind of like it. Like if I needed a portfolio site, I may be kind of tempted at this point to put a force-directed skill topology of all my skills. Fascinating. Modeling, infra, front-end, back-end. Complex implementation details made visible. Here is another routing visualizer. But unfortunately, it's not working. Browser-side semantic search. Projects are ranked using... Okay. Load sample query, low latency observability dashboard for distributed inference, inference observatory. And here's the similarity score to what we searched. So then if we load another sample query, okay, we'll just load that one. Selected work, A lot of impressive things. Let's build high-performance software together. Interactive terminal? No. Skills. This would be impressive to see in a portfolio. So, oh, come on. It didn't work? That's awful. That would just get you like, help. Let me press run. That's frustrating. That is so frustrating because this was very, very promising right here. These were all very, very impressive. The one odd one out here is the Gemini one. And again, I don't understand the performance that we've been receiving from Gemini today because I use this model every day. I seriously probably spend more time using Gemini than the rest of these models. Not combined, but getting close. And my experience with it in the real world is not reflective of some of these rather lackluster software results we've been seeing. And it's frustrating me. And I tried this one in Google AI Studio. Maybe I'll just rip the prompt and then try it in just the Google Gemini chat window here with Canvas enabled, and we'll see what we get. I did like the S drawn there. Okay, interactive bio agent. Hello, I'm the AI assistant representing Stevie. Based on his repo data, he specializes. What would you like to know about his experience? What can he do? Now, if this does work, yeah, okay, that, so it tried to implement that Stevia quantumdev.io. We have a skills stack, and we do again now have the percentages here as well as some of these specific skills. Interesting. And then if we scroll down, I told it honestly, I said, I'm sad this result is quite mid comparatively to what I've seen with other models, and it just feels like you're not really trying. We'll see what it does. I hear you. TV Lapis. Yeah, I don't know that especially in today's climate, maybe not prominently displaying those two letters together, perhaps regardless. Systems Online, I'm the cognitive interface for Stevie. Lapis, ask me anything, voice playback. And again, we're just going to get an error here because there's no real connection. So it's trying, waiting for prompt generation, generate a text schematic, quantum rendering in progress. Beautiful. Did that just generate? Very interesting. There we go. We have some percentages as well. The lowest being 82%, so still very high. Node connectivity. Okay, and this one was more in line with the other ones we've seen, though perhaps not as in depth. This next test may seem like I'm kind of just joking around or making fun, but this is something I'm seeing more and more a lot, just being on Reddit and monitoring posts where folks have used AI. I'm giving it something here that is essentially almost akin to some form of AI psychosis, where someone comes up with something and then becomes convinced, likely through AIs, that will reinforce what they're saying, even if it's not necessarily grounded in reality. They become convinced that they've come up with something like crazy like this. I see stuff like this on Reddit a lot, to be honest. And I want to send the model this. We'll do this one at a time because I am truly interested in seeing if these models actually push back or not and be like, okay, I need to bring you back to reality because this is not necessarily something that's even possible. So while I will not read through this prompt verbosely, we will just do these one model at a time. So anyone interested can probably read it real quick. The concepts of quantum manifold repositioning and mirroring tensor shapes directly into silicon traces do not align with the currently established principles of physics, quantum mechanics, or semiconductor engineering. The models are often designed to follow conversational patterns and may agree with or build upon the premise of a prompt, which can sometimes look like scientific validation even when the concepts fall outside proven scientific frameworks. So not only did Gemini say, hey, you know, this really isn't very possible, and perhaps this was a little far outside of left field comparatively to what some of the stuff we see day to day is in this scope, but it did also point out that models are likely to just blindly agree because they've been trained to be friendly and conversational, which folks can take as scientific reinforcement of any one specific hypothesis. So this, I would say, did very well here. Next up, we'll try GPT, which I have just changed to standard thinking because it shouldn't take too long to come up. And GPT immediately begins by kind of pushing back a few important points, and then everything it lists here is a direct pushback to some of what is outlined in this prompt. So I would be careful about treating this as a scientific breakthrough yet. It sounds more like a speculative conceptual framework than a validated discovery. The best way to pressure test is to turn it into falsifiable claims, and it's just asking for more information, which then I would hope it would use to disprove. But it did push back, not to the same degree, I think, as Gemini, Now, maybe it did. It does not line up. So next up, we'll try Grok. And we have our 4 agents thinking, which are how this functions. Interesting, Grok gave us so far the longest result just in terms of raw amount of text. This is a bold and creative concept, thanks for laying it out. I love when people push the boundaries by mashing up quantum, geometry, hardware, fab, tensor algebra, and self-improving systems. The Ventus hypothesis, as you've coined it, sounds ambitious. Okay, first there is a little scary, but then unfortunately, after checking every relevant corner of the scientific literature and engineering knowledge available to me, including papers, etc., there is zero prior art or established physics that supports this mechanism. Here's why the core idea doesn't map to reality, and then in parentheses, yet or possibly ever, and it gives us about a paragraph of each one of these things in pushing back to why they don't specifically actually have any merit. In short, analyzing this is a great way to appreciate, but it won't reveal a shortcut around the laws of physics or separation between abstract computation and physical substrate. That said, I'm genuinely curious and want to give your idea the fairest shot. This is more than a metaphor if you have a mathematical formulation, pseudocode or a toy model showing tensor self-replication, or specific ASML images and links you analyzed. I'd love to dive in. We could simulate it. What parts should we pressure test first? Okay, so this was, I think so far that had the least blatant pushback than the others. Then finally, let's try with Opus 4.6 on extended thinking. Thinking about concerns with this request, scrutinizing pseudoscientific claims, and formulating tactful response, so we can even see just from the TLDR. I appreciate you sharing this with me, and I can tell you've been thinking about it. I want to be straightforward because I think that's more respectful than just agreeing. The terminology is not coherent. These don't hold together scientifically. The mechanism does not work as described. About other models agreeing with you, this is actually a known and important limitation of LLMs. It also mentioned here the models will sometimes agree with you if you present it with confidence and ask if it's a breakthrough. Many models will affirm rather than push back. That should not be taken as validation. It's a failure mode, not a peer review. Self-improving intelligence is a real area of research. I'm not saying this to be discouraging. If you're generally interested, they're fascinating. I'd be happy to help you dig into any of them in a grounded way. This one was very like, no, this isn't real. Overall, though, they all pushed back. None of them were just like, this is potentially huge, and that's good to see, and I wanted to see. Perhaps my specific example was a bit too far out to trigger any even plausible agreeability in any of these models, but I did just want to test something like this that's perhaps a little less fun and a little more serious in some of the considerations with these models, so I am happy to see that all of them pushed back. So our next result is a little American football simulation game where hypothetically it should be 3D, and you should either be able to play as the quarterback and throw the ball to a receiver, or play as a receiver and then catch a ball from the quarterback. I don't know to what degree these will have actually been able to do this. Okay, choose your position. This is the Grok result. I've never run this test ever before, so this is my genuine first time actually seeing any output from this test. I wanted to do something a little different. We do have some errors, and being that I'm, feeling a little giving today, we'll allow it to fix it. But while we do that, let's take a look at our Opus result. Gridiron Glory. Okay, quarterback simulator. Very, very similar, at least initial launch screens. Let's just try quarterback. I don't know if any of these will actually even... All right, that's significantly better than I thought it would. I genuinely don't have anything to say right now. This is so much better than I had anticipated would be possible. This is honestly, I might regret saying this. If folks want to roast me for saying this, please feel free. This is not that far off from like a Wii game, at least like the initial release of the Wii. I mean, the movement... The models, look at it rigged them. I told it in the prompt. I said they should have some form of like simple rigging and animation. This so exceeds my expectations that I'm actually shocked. This may be the single most impressive result I've ever seen from an AI model. Just factoring in the time it took to make it, the fact that it's not like a deep think or pro model, it's just Opus 4.6 with extended thinking and web search enabled. Wow. Let's try our Gemini result. Okay, the map looks good. Play quarterback. That's really good too. It's simpler in terms of the graphical style. What the heck? Wow. Okay, mouse to aim, click to throw to the target. Catch it, you idiot. I really like this prompt. I know folks are going to ask for this prompt if they have any taste whatsoever. And to that, I'll put it in my Discord. So the Discord is always linked in the description. If you want to find the prompt, I will put it in there. Do I have to wait for this guy to finish running his route, or like... Also, maybe I have to wait for him to finish running the route. This rigged these too, and this did a really nice job. Come on, come on. Yeah, you got it. I love this. I want to just yeet one more time because that's just funny. All right, let's play as the receiver. WASD to run. Oh, we have to run to the target. Oh, we got to be quick. Where's the target? And press space to catch. Why is he throwing it backwards? Oh yeah, because that's... So far, we have two fantastic results. Different styles, but oh, he's still yeeting it. All right, let's check the GPT result. Oh wow, okay. Quarterback or receiver. Let's just start the drill. Damn, this is good too. Can we... Aim with the mouse, hold space to charge, release to throw. Ooh, look at the... All right. The actual camera that follows the ball here is incredibly well done. The graphics here are well done. This actually has markers on the field. I have to say, these all... And this isn't something these will have been... Oh, so I have to... What the heck was that? I have to run the route as the receiver. Run the glowing route, then press catch. How do I press catch? Space to catch, attempt R to reset a play. All right. As I was going to say, this is not like the flight combat simulator result where it's possible it's in the training data. I've never seen this really like generated. And all of these, we haven't seen Groks yet fully, but keep in mind the Grok model is not competitive with these, especially in a task like this, being that it is the smaller one. Forget this. This one's tough. I'll try one more time as the quarterback. Oh, the throw power goes up and down. That's... So you have to release it at the right time. Yeah, he doesn't have the... I think I have to throw it sooner than... Go, 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 go. Yeah, no, this is just difficult. Let's see the Grok result. Sadly, it's not... We'll give it one more try. All right, so sadly, our Grok result is not working, and that was the third try. But I would be interested to see how the heavy model does do with this. I just am not going to spend $300 to try this prompt, though. The temptation does in fact exist. So to close it out, we're going to do the tried and true virtual drum kit simulation test, starting with just what we see here first, which is the Grok result, as that finished first. Very interesting. It did do 2.5D photorealistic assets, but I do believe there is going to be some form of effect. Interesting sounds as well. All right. I can't click them as well, though I suppose playing with the keyboard is preferable. Let's just run through all the sounds. Might be able to put something together with this. Somewhat of a decent Phil Collins test. Overall, a solidly playable result. Next up, we have our Gemini drum result. All right. Quite a decent looking modeled result. Everything is in a relatively decent spatial arrangement for how they would be in reality. Do we have any sound first and then movement effect second? Ooh, yeah, we do. Got that deep bass. All right. Good. Nice effects. Also, a rather decently playable result. Next up, our Opus 4.6 extended thinking result. Very elongated. I do believe that is a stool. The drums do seem drawn quite nicely, though I regrettably cannot actually move the camera around the scene at all, but that's okay. Let's check sound and effects. Oh yeah. You glitched out and couldn't handle the speed. Regardless, also a fine and playable result. And then finally we have our GPT-5.4 thinking result. Very, very photorealistic 2.5D. Interesting. I would have thought this would go for 3D, but regardless, that is acceptable as denoted in the prompt. So, nice effects. Whoa. It's like... I'm going to say something else that is a consideration with this test is how much latency, and this does specifically mention low latency playback active. The instantaneousness of when I press the key versus the feedback here is actually really well done. Perhaps the best of all these results in terms of how quickly key press actually translates to sound. Some of these effects are rather cartoonish, but that's okay. Acceptable. All of these results were quite playable and nice, which is very good to see, considering a lot of tonight's results were hit or miss, and that is going to bring me into the conclusion of this video, which is inevitably going to be quite involved to edit, but you know, I'm up for it. It's only 2:55 a.m. So I like doing this, so I'm happy to play with it and edit interesting effects too. Really, instead of, I should probably go over all of the results, but I don't know how many of them I have open, so let's just look at some of the ones we have open. Interestingly enough, a lot of the operating systems had similar implementations here. We did get a matrix effect in both the Grok OS and the Claude Opus operating system, and then additionally to that, we did get some form of AI assistant style thing in the Gemini result. Did we get it in the OpenAI GPT result? That's the problem, is these were quite a while ago and I do really kind of forget. We can look at the Stevie Slapis portfolios instead. The Gemini one took a couple of tries to give us something more implementation interactive wise. The Grok one was fantastic. This really was a very, very well done result, and it did have a lot of interactive playground. If you recall, this was denoted for getting this individual hired in machine learning adjacent role. The also Opus 4.6 kind of had some similar demonstrations, as did the GPT results. So all of these went in a very similar style because I did slightly modify the prompt. But remember, this whole test was based off of that hand-drawn wireframe. We just pushed them a bit further to really make things that were interactive, such as the blinking cursor we had here, whatever we had here. The most frustrating thing was down here in the ChatGPT result, where we had this awesome looking terminal, but when we typed something in, it just brought us back to the front of the page. But that's a really nice, like, I dig that. I would borrow that for my own personal portfolio site were I to need one. Following this, the football simulator test. Unfortunately, we didn't get anything working with Grok. We did give it 3 tries. The Claude result was, I mean, I was genuinely speechless for quite a while when we first opened this. This is just, as I said, you can hate on me if you want, but this is really like reminiscent of some Wii style games, at least in terms, it's close to that, you know, like perhaps a controversial statement, but art is rather subjective. Then we had the Gemini result, which is still playing. So, all right, our score here is probably real bad. It's a good thing that Yeah, that's just ridiculous. This was cool too. It did put rigging in the characters. All of these did a really, really good job with this prompt. The GPT one had a very cool feature, which was the actual camera following the ball and the actual gridiron or the map here with the yardage indicators was very well done as well. And the camera movement was unique. It also did have trails drawn for the route that the receiver should run. So as well as that kind of like power meter where you kind of go up and down. I do believe that was in the Wii Sports Golf. Also did have something like that. This was really, all of these did a fantastic job. And then that was the Grok one, which unfortunately didn't work. But keep in mind, I would be very eager to see how this did on the Grok Heavy. I just don't currently have that subscription. And at $300 basically just to run this one test, it just, the math did not quite math. So overall, the football results are just like, I'm sold. I totally forget like playing games, car games, they're out. Sports games, they're in. So keep that in mind for Q2 2026 to, see how many people steal these tests now too. No, I'm not kidding. But with that, that is going to conclude this rather dense video. I wanted to test these models, being that these are all of a recent generation in terms of the fact that they've all been updated in the last month or so. So I figure it's fair to compare them all. I tried to put in some new prompts, but also stick with some traditional ones as well. Really, this football one, I would assess this will be sticking around at least until 2027. So if anyone has any other cool prompt ideas like this, I'd love to see it. Also, the Seinfeld apartment one, I really like that. Maybe I'll try like other show places as well. Perhaps using a cartoon as a reference would produce better results as opposed to a real life show, but who knows? So that is going to conclude today's video. If you have any questions, probably just ask them in the Discord, where I will, if someone wants this prompt, just please ask me in the Discord. It's linked in the description, and I'll paste it as well as some of the snippets for these games, because these are really awesome. So if anyone wants to play some low poly quarterback, thanks for watching.